Hello and welcome to the Prompt Engineering webinar. My name is Imet and I'm the Head of Operations at Metana. So in today's webinar, we are going to be discussing about several things. And before I dive into that, prompt engineering is something that everyone does. If you are a marketing person or a developer or even an operations manager like me, right? You will be using ChatGPT or Claude, Gemini, or whatever for a lot of reasons. Maybe to write an email, right? And one of the things you might have done is you enter something and then you keep iterating on it. And a lot of the things that I'm going to cover here today might be something that you already know. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to help you connect the dots, right? We will be going through the definitions, which is here in the presentation. And in the presentation, we have the definitions, the models, the framework, the prompting techniques, configurations, challenges, and also I'll be going to discuss a little bit about AI agents and MCP servers, because I feel like that could be the next big thing in AI. And that's not just what I think, and I feel like a lot of people think about it. Because at Metana, we do build a lot of projects and a lot of products. Dunley is something like that, even though I'm not a part of it, right? So to start off, this content was prompt engineered as well. But chill, I reviewed it, okay? And what don't we use ChatGPT for? So before I dive into comparing models, I want to talk a bit about these definitions: tokens, prompts, and prompt engineering. And these are the three most important things that we need to sort of like define before we dive further. Now, tokens are, in the context of large language models, it is a unit of text that the model reads and generates. Right? So to demonstrate that, let's go to, we have this particular tool from OpenAI, which is called Tokenizer. So if we were to input something here, I'm going to try to increase the size of the text. So write an email to request leave on Friday to HR. So now this is a prompt that you're going to feed into the large language model. And if you can see, it has 10 tokens, right? And there's 47 characters. And this token concept is very important for several reasons. And I'm going to be talking about that later in the slides, but for now, you can see how the large language model is breaking this sentence down into a specific number of tokens. And then when it comes to prompts is an attempt to set up the large language model to predict the right sequence of tokens. I mean, you can't just open up ChatGPT or Qwen or Grok like this and just use your telepathy to tell it to do something. You have to input something, right? And this input is what it's going to take into account and try to predict the next sequence of tokens. I hope that made sense, right? And the next thing is prompt engineering, and this is what this session is all about. Prompt engineering is the process of crafting high quality prompts, right? So everyone can write a prompt, but not everyone can write a good prompt. But hopefully you will be able to write a good prompt after this session. And that's the whole point. Now, to start off, I want to sort of compare a couple of models. Now I created a prompt here. So we'll just go here and ask every large language model the same question and see what it generates. So this is Mistral, and then I'm going to use Grok. Then, oh, I use Quen, and it's fine. Gemini. Perplexity. I'm sure a lot of y'all are familiar with these large language models. Actually, you call these AI chatbots that use large language models. And DeepSeek is very famous. Over the beginning of the year, there was like a huge hype behind DeepSeek because they were able to release that R1 thinking model, and everyone was talking about it. But I don't think there's that much hype right now. So we basically asked the same question, and in Mistral it replied, I have the ability to generate images using the Black Forest Labs API, which is a feature that some other language models do not offer. This allows me to create visual content based on text prompts, providing a more interactive and engaging experience. Okay, so Mistral is something you can use to probably generate images, right? And that's what it says, so we can test it out. So let's say generate a banner for prompt engineering webinar. So this particular prompt itself is not that good. And what I mean by that is we haven't given it any context or examples, but wow, that's brilliant. I mean, I would say like, for a matter of seconds, this was like really good. So it came up with a date, it came up with a webinar, and this is something I will later introduce to you in the slides. It's called zero-shot prompting. But yeah, that's amazing. All right, so we are looking at the Quen large language model. Hey there, that's an interesting question. And let me think first and foremost, deeply integrated with the Alibaba ecosystem. Okay. And my training data is pretty special. It's based on the Alibaba Group's internal historical accumulation, which gives me a unique perspective. I'm actually not really happy about this one. Well, it's just saying that this particular large language model is deeply integrated with the Alibaba ecosystem. Okay, that's something we can take as an answer. If you look at Grok, this was XAI's model, and it's integrated with Twitter. So it can analyze individual Twitter user profiles, posts, and their links in real time and provide insights. So yeah, that is an edge. I would accept that as an edge. Native multimodality in Gemini, advanced reasoning, long context window. So I figured out when it comes to ChatGPT and Gemini, these particular large language models or AI chatbots boast about longer context retention. So that means when you're talking to the chatbot, and if you are like, let's say, iterating on a particular prompt, you can keep iterating on it, and it will try to build on top of the response that it previously outputted. So that's a really good thing, because back in the day, around 2022, 2023, if you use ChatGPT, and if you used it to code particularly, you might have seen like ChatGPT doesn't understand what we are trying to say. So we have to keep iterating until and even you have to sometimes delete the entire chat and get the whole thing ramped up again, right? So those are some challenges we had back in the day, but right now I don't see those type of issues because I think the models are improving, obviously. And then if you look at Perplexity, okay, I haven't inputted it, but let's see what it's saying. So real-time web search, right? From the moment this particular AI chatbot Perplexity was introduced, it boasted about its internet research capabilities, which is currently something that was added as internet search on ChatGPT and other models. And if you look at DeepSeek, so it is again boasting about the large context window. And there's another particular chat we can use, that is Claude. What is something you can do that others can't do? So I'm on the free plan on this particular AI chatbot. So this is the most funniest thing, right? If you use Claude and if you ask like what is something you can do that others can't do, it just starts writing code and giving you a data visualization, right? Because Claude is really good at coding. Claude is really good at coding. And this is seriously funny because it just created the clock as well. And it was trying to give us some visualization, and this is pretty interesting, right? So imagine like back in the day when we wanted to create something like a clock or like a calculator, we had to sit down, at least code for 30 minutes. But you don't have to do that right now. These large language models have improved to an extent that these things are like, you know, very minimalistic. Like you don't have to spend that much time to try and do these tasks. So that's what I wanted to sort of show you, because when you're using these models, they have different use cases. Like ChatGPT is more general purpose. It can also code, it can also generate images, but sometimes maybe Mistral might be a better option. And if you're trying to code, Perplexity or Claude might be better. You just saw like Claude didn't even wait for you to tell it to build something. It just built a visualization graph and then a clock to show that it can just code. That's really funny. So now comes the prompting techniques. This is what I meant earlier. Now the first thing that we asked to do, generate a banner for a prompt engineering webinar. And what we did was we didn't give it any examples. We just gave a prompt. And that's why we call it zero shot, right? So if you read the definition, simplest type of prompt, it only provides a description of a task and some text for the LLM to get started. This input could be anything: a question, the start of a story, or instruction. The name zero shot stands for no examples. I think that's pretty much straightforward. And if we look at one shot prompt, you have to give it an example. So let's try to find a banner image did we give it any context? Okay, webinar. Images. Let's try to make something like this. So we give the same prompt, but then we give it an example. Actually, I failed to give any context, like use this particular image as an example. That would have been a better prompt. Okay, so I think the first one was better. We need to give some context. Let's actually try to give some context and see. Use the above image as an example. I know these are some basic stuff, but stay tuned because I will also show you how to like do stuff with code, like play around with the APIs and all that stuff as well. Okay, I think the thing is like you can still the first image that was generated was way better in my opinion. But we can keep iterating until we get a result, and that's what we try to do, right? Like anyone would just try to give it some instructions and try to reiterate, iterate until you get the specific output you need. So the next one is few-shot prompting, which is giving multiple examples. So that means you don't just give one example, you give an array of examples and try to and tell the ChatGPT or tell the large language model to use those examples and try to generate an image. Now, based on all of the things like few-shot prompting and one-shot prompting, you don't have to always follow these things. The most important thing is that you understand the task that you are given, and one of the key things you have to do is you have to be able to articulate that task. That means clearly define what you want the AI to do, be direct and specific. So I have a couple of improvements that I did with this. So we'll pick a particular model, and then we'll ask it to write a resume. Yeah, write a resume. So it will try to generate a resume and creating the header, creating the summary, experience. Wow. And this is without giving any experience like the name, the CV, even an example CV, nothing. It's formatted in LaTeX for a clean and professional look. Brilliant. And and if you guys are still using like Canva or some other tools or Word even to create CVs, you guys are missing out. And that's just write a resume. So imagine the things you can do. So the next thing we are going to do is, so the framework here that I'm introducing to you is actually derived from the Google prompting course that they released, and they have a publicly available PDF as well. I actually adopted these techniques from that. Now what we're going to do is act as a professional career coach and write a resume. So sometimes even though you give it a role, it might not drastically improve what you first got, right? Because as large language models get better and better, they are fine-tuned to answer even small prompts with the best possible answer they can give. So instead of updating the PDF, it just gave me a better one. Though this is basically the same thing. So that's why I said like even a simple prompt could deliver good results when the model is improving. So then we can do it as like assign a target format. So for that, what we can do is let's give me a tabulated. All right, give me jobs that I can apply to with this resume and tabulate the results. So tabulate the results is where you give instructions on how to format the output. So based on the particular resume, these are the roles that you can apply to, and the salary range, the required skills, where to find these jobs. And the first thing we did was we just gave it to write a resume. Then we told it to act as a professional career and write a resume. Then we asked it to give us tabulated information about what type of jobs we can apply to. But we didn't tell like for who to write this resume. So that's where the context is, and I don't think anyone would forget about these things. So now here it shows like all the jobs related to tech, because this guy has 5 years of experience in project management and data analysis. So let's try to, okay, here's a front-end developer resume. Recent grad. And what are the jobs that we can apply to? So I know these are things that you already know, but when you're the point I'm trying to make here is that whenever you are trying to do a task, and if it's a complicated task, if it's a simple task, you don't need to go to this length. But if it's a complicated task, you need to structure your idea in a way that the large language model can give you a better answer. So that way you don't have to keep repeating yourself over and over and over again to get the best answer. You try to tweak it as much as you can so you get a good answer right off the bat. So now front-end developer, you can apply for these roles. All right. So Grok is actually doing a pretty good job, I would say. All right, cool. Now comes some of the things now you might have not heard about. So the configurations, because in AI chatbots like let's say ChatGPT, if I go here, I don't have these particular configurations to like directly interact with, right? So I can't even find it. Let's try to go to ChatGPT. Yeah, even ChatGPT is the same. So what you can do is if you have the plus plan, you can create your own GPT, and then you can tweak it a bit. But still, I don't think configuration settings would be that much appropriate for someone who's just going to do like surface level tasks like writing emails and all that stuff. But it could be for someone who's trying to automate. So if you guys are fans of automations, I think the next part is going to be really interesting. So once you choose your model, you will need to figure out the model configurations. For beginners who are trying to attempt to build like, let's say, MVPs, which is a minimum viable product, you don't have to touch these settings actually. But it would be really good if you can understand how to sort of tweak these settings. And like I said in the beginning, tokens are an important thing. So token limit is something that we set so that the LLM stop predicting more tokens once the limit is reached. It doesn't mean each and every prompt is gonna take that much of prompts. Let's say 500 tokens. If you define 500 tokens, it doesn't mean it's gonna take 500 tokens. It's just, it won't exceed it. And this is really good because like when you're getting billed or like if you have a couple of users and you think that this particular this type of chats, like let's say for example you are responding to you're trying to automate how to respond to leave requests as an HR person, right? So when you're trying to automate that, an email like that would consume, let's say maybe 500 tokens, right? So you could test it out and see what's the maximum or like the minimum you need. So it's really important, because otherwise you will spend a lot of tokens, and when you have a lot of tokens it will do some crazy things, which I will explain in a bit. So sampling controls is something that I wanted to discuss here, is because large language models do not directly predict a single token, they predict a probability, right? So if you guys have done data, if you are from data science backgrounds, I think you are very familiar with this one. And they predict the probabilities for what the next token could be, with each token in the large language model's vocabulary getting a probability. So the first thing that we can play around with is temperature. So temperature means the degree of randomness. So I think this, I'm not exactly saying this is how it was derived from, but when you look at the state of matter, like the solid, gas, and liquid status, like when the temperature increases, you try to go into a more random state, right? I think that's the logic here as well. So when the temperature is increased, it causes higher randomness, and if the temperature is decreased, it doesn't cause higher randomness. What this means is, so imagine there is a probability of a token. So every token that the LLM is gonna give as an output or generate has a probability based on the input you give. And if that token has the highest probability, then if you want it to be the highest probability token that is outputted, you need to keep the temperature low. If you increase the temperature, you're gonna let others take part as well. Like it doesn't have to be the highest probability, it could be anything. So top K and top P are two other parameters that you can play around with. Now, if you look at this particular distribution, it's showing the probability of tokens. So the word has 0.25, A has 0.20, N has 0.15. And top K is any positive integer that you choose. Let's say K is equal to 1, then you are always saying the large language model to make sure the next token is the highest probable token. That means that its probability value is going to be 0.25. So if you want it to be K equal 3, the top 3 most probable tokens are going to be 0.25, 0.20, 0.15, DAN. And the model will randomly pick one of these 3. Every other token is ignored, even if its cumulative probability is low. And talking about cumulative probability, that is explained here in this particular parameter, which is top P. So if P is always less than 1, you can, because it's a percentage, and if P is equal to 0.7, the model includes just enough top tokens until they reach 70% of total probability. So in this distribution, if we look at the probability, they are going to add up, the is going to add up to 0.25, A 0.45, and 0.60, this 0.70. Now you stop and you randomly pick a token from that, right? So like even if you try to increase top P, top K, you are just only trying to pick one. It's just you are playing around with its creative probability, like creativeness. You can have, it's not the most highest probable one, but it could be something else that is contextually relevant. So now I wanted to show you some demonstrations. Now the whole point of this prompt engineering webinar is to obviously show you the importance of prompt engineering, but then again, these are all things you know. But I'm pretty sure you were able to map the jargon I spoke here to the things that you've been doing. So now you understand, okay, this is what I've been doing. This is what this means, right? And this particular script that I have written is using an OpenAI API. And what I'm trying to create here is an automated responder to leave requests acting as an HR. Now that's a very, very cool concept, right? So what I'm doing here is, obviously this is code, but if you look at my prompt template, this is a very beautiful prompt. So I'm just gonna decrease the size a bit to show you guys. Now this is a prompt that I created, and you are an HR assistant. Your job is to generate a formal reply to an employee's leave request. And you have to refer to this email body. So I didn't mention anything about variables in my particular framework, because that framework was more of a general purpose thing. But I have referenced that framework here as well, because I've set rules, I've given it context, I've given it a role, and I've also given it like the output format as well. So there are things that I've included. But the whole point of this is a very complex task, right? So particular emails, like let's say if I were to say, if I were to look at an email, so this is Imet, that's me. I'm sending an email to HR. I'd like to request casual leave from May 25 to May 28 to attend my cousin's wedding out of town. So would the HR approve this? I feel like that's a very honest request. But would it actually try to approve a request like this? Let's say, okay, Raj, hi HR, I need casual leave from May 22 to May 24 to attend a family function. Let me know if this works. Let me know if that works for him. That's pretty rude, I would say. Because if I was the HR, no. I wouldn't even just like type anything. I would be like, no. So anyways, if we look at, so these are the type of like emails. So like you can't basically ask it to like be like, okay, if this person says, this, and he wants a leave because of this, and if you try to create a prompt and if you input it to ChatGPT and if you try to use this, there's no way you can do it. You can iteratively like text here, keep texting and try to get different outputs, but that's not the purpose we are here for. We want to automate this, right? So what we are going to do is we are going to basically test this and see what the output is going to be, right? So this is the whole beauty of prompt engineering, right? We try to make sure that everything is here, and we have the rules, and these are the rules, right? If is follow-up is true, reconsider the request and be more flexible. If days requested is greater than max allowed days, and no emergency and no manager approval, politely reject. And I have included these things as variables as well. And I'm going to pass them too, right? So now I want to explain something here. Now, if you look at this particular model that I'm using, it's GPT-4o 2024 August 6th model. And if you look at the references here, and sorry, if you go to models at OpenAI, and if you select a particular model, let's say GPT-4o, and if you go down, you can see the version that I am selected is this, but the current version that was outed was on November 20th, right? So the reason this is important is, let's say I'm working on this prompt and it's working perfectly for me now, and they release a new version. The output could differ, right? And I don't know if you have tried this. If you give the same question twice to the to ChatGPT or whatever, it will give a somewhat different answer, right? And in OpenAI, there is a specific way to deal with this. It's called seed, right? So if you look at seed, which is basically telling us, I'm going to do a find. All right. So seed is basically a feature that can tell the large language model to always output similar answers, like for the same question, right? So usually determinism is not guaranteed, but then again, we try to somewhat achieve that using this seed parameter. And going back to our script here, you can see I've used a temperature of 0.4. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the max tokens to a limit of 50. And I'm going to try to run my script. So let's see. All right, HR response for Imet, subject leave request follow-up. Dear Imet, thank you for your follow-up regarding your leave request from May 25 to May 28 to attend your cousin's wedding. I understand the importance of family events, and while I appreciate. So what happened here is the token limit that you input was not sufficient for this particular model to respond properly, right? And that's why we need to figure out what's the best token limit. So if we clear this and if we run it again with 500 tokens. All right, if you guys are wondering like how am I getting this, it's basically a TypeScript file with data, and I'm just feeding it to this function here, like accessing an array. So the first object on that one, just use that one. Oh, okay. So now we get a better response. Dear Imet, thank you for your follow-up regarding your leave request from May 25 to May 28 to attend your cousin's wedding. We understand the importance of family events and appreciate your patience as we consider your request. However, given the current leave policy constraints, we are unable to approve the full duration of your requested leave due to the maximum allowed days being exceeded and the absence of emergency or managerial approval. We encourage you to discuss this matter with your manager. Please be reminded that your current leave balance is low. So what this is basically saying is we are unable to approve the full duration of your requested leave, but it's basically asking to discuss with the manager and get back. So maybe we can try another prompt. Let's say Raj was very mean in his response. So actually this got a different response the previous time I tried it. So that's what I've been saying, right? Even if you ask the large language model the same question, it can output different answers. So we need these parameters and try to put constraints to make sure that it gives the answers we need, and that's why these things are important, right? And so we'll try to input Raj. So Raj is 4. By the way, an array starts from 0, not from 1. That's why I'm going for 4. And if you don't know what an array is, I don't think I can explain it right now. So Raj was mean. He was like, let's actually read his this thing again. What he said was, casual leave from 2022 to 22 to 24. Attend a family function. Let me know if this works. And the AI generated. However, as per our policy, the maximum allowed days would be this. I am unable to approve your request for the full duration. Okay, it's giving the same answer, right? So now let's see if this would give us a better answer if we try to increase the temperature to around 7 on top. B is around 7 as well. All right, so it gives us a straightforward answer, because the previous answer that it gave us was like, it exceeds, so talk to your manager and see. And that's the same thing it said to the previous email as well, like Imet's email and Raj's email, it was the same response. So for this particular, when we increased the temperature and all, we got a response saying, after reviewing your request, I must inform that our policy allows for 2 maximum days, and without prior manager approval, as your request exceeds this limit and does not have necessary approval, I am unable to approve it. So it's giving a solid answer. We can't approve this one. Let's actually try to see if we can get a solid answer for Imet's HR leave request. All right, now so for this one, it's saying to discuss with your manager and see, because your leave balance is at 1. And I would think this is something, this is legit and closer to what an HR would take as a decision, because they have the policy, right? You can't request more than 2 days. You don't have manager approval. So it's politely saying, just talk to your manager and see, and reach out if you have any further questions, right? So now that's why, now this is actually prompt engineering. And a lot of developers these days, and even if you're like someone like a product manager, or even someone who's enthusiastic about creating your own product, it would be really beneficial for you to learn this, because if your app is containing something like a large language model in the backend, and if you are using these AI agentic developers like Cursor, not Cursor actually, Bolt, Lovable, Replit, or even they can build me an MVP for an app that can do my tasks for me only on Mac. This is a reference I'm making. I don't think I don't know if anyone will get that though. It can look at my screen and do things. So these are AI. This is an AI agent. An AI agent comprises of large language models, but it can do autonomous tasks as well. I think I'm having a Wi-Fi connection issue. Yeah. Jarvis. Oh, I have to sign in. That means what I can do is I can Replit. Replit is also another file. Another app we can use. All right, so let's see what it does. So now this is very powerful because a lot of the things we used to do manually, like creating the file structure, I don't have a clear description. So what I would do is I would go to ChatGPT and provide more details about the following. So I can ask Replit to create a Jarvis-like app. Questions we need. So I mean, if you saw my sidebar, there was a lot of chats, and that's the whole point I'm trying to make. Nobody, like everyone uses prompt engineering, and that was something I mentioned in the disclaimer itself. So now it gave me a detailed prompt to use, so I can use in Replit to create my personal assistant. So this is something I'm actually not proper. I haven't done the ideation part properly. It's just a random idea that popped into my head. But what I'm trying to say is the MVP can be built very quickly. And when you're dealing with an MVP, you will probably have, like if you're integrating chatbots, you will have this kind of a thing. And the best way to show it right now is in my particular app itself, which I've been creating. So it's analyzing smart contracts and giving recommendations based on EIPs. And you can see the prompt engineering that I have done. I have used the roles and I have given context to make sure that it operates the way I want it to. So this is the tweaking that I talked about. And one more thing I want to show before when we are talking about issues in prompt engineering, actually we have to consider two things, that's hallucination and biases. Hallucinations are basically the large language model might tend to give answers that are not entirely accurate and will try to make up answers. And that's what you refer to as hallucinations. And biases the biases can actually occur because of the data that it was trained on. So if it's trained on a particular data and you're asking something like a new question, it's trying to give answers based on the data it has access to. So that's a bias itself, right? So these are some issues that are not just they are just because of prompt engineering, but happens due to the nature of large language models itself. Now, the last thing I want to show is I actually showed you a couple of AI agents, which is the Replit AI agent, and let's see if I can just copy paste this thing here and ask it to build something. And in the meantime, if you guys are familiar with Docker or something, AI agents could be like, analogically, they could be like a Docker container, and MCP server could be something like Kubernetes, which is orchestrating how everything is connected and controlled. So AI agents utilize large language models to perform autonomous tasks, and MCP server manage, coordinate, and control systems autonomously. So one other thing I want to show is I can actually use Claude and, hey, tell me the last downloaded file on my Mac. Oh, I think I removed this one. So what we can do is we can run MCP servers and try to give it access to our computer itself. And so this is an MCP server. And let's try to see if we can. Okay, we are running the edit config. Okay, cool. We'll quit it. Try to reopen it again. Code. Mac. Okay, for some reason it's not working right now, but I have a chat where it was able to tell me the exact file that was downloaded. And this is because it has access to my file directory. And these are the things that is possible moving forward, like your environment, your laptop itself could be configured to help you in your tasks. All right, so to give you guys a recap, we will be able to share the slides or the resources that we have used here, especially the tokenizer if you want to play around, and even the Claude model that accessed our file system to give us information about what's in our computer, and even the repo for the AI assistant that was used to approve and refuse leave requests, HR leave requests. But the most important thing is I wouldn't try to give access to my computer, my personal computer that contains sensitive information to the large language model because I don't want AI to take control of all of my data. And even if you're using something like ChatGPT, make sure that if you are trying to if you are like using it as a personal friend, some people might be actually, and you make sure that the you go to the settings and you go to the data controls and you switch this off. So this particular profile I created right now for this session, so I'm not worried about it. But make sure you switch this off because otherwise they can use your data to train the model. So to give you a recap, what you need to do is like follow this particular framework. It will help you to like improve the prompts you have been writing so far, and the models have improved a lot as well. But the most important thing is like if you guys are trying to build apps or trying to play around with these OpenAI APIs, make sure you use something like you try to tweak the settings, the top P, top K values, and even the temperature settings like I showed you here. And so you can actually build your own app properly, right? So that's about it for the prompt engineering webinar. I hope I was able to give you some new tips actually. And yeah, I hope you guys have an amazing day.